South. We're so glad you're joining us today. Today is such a special day, and may I start off by saying Happy Mother's Day. To all you mothers out there, you do an incredible job of raising all of us and loving on us, and we are just totally grateful for all that you've done and that you poured into our lives. I know today's a little bit different. I was talking with my mother-in-law. Told her, I said this year she'd be celebrating 51 Mother's Day. And I think this is the first time in 51 of them that she hasn't been able to be in church to be honored by her children. And so I know today is a difficult day where a lot of you mothers are not in church where you normally are and you're recognized and honored, but we want to honor you today. And I know some of you usually go out to a restaurant after church and spend Mother's Day together, and with restaurants being closed, this Mother's Day is going to look a little different than what they have in the past. And some of you may not be able to get with your mothers because of pre-existing conditions and trying to social distance and just keep them safe. So we want you to feel blessed today. Wherever you may be, you may not be able to be with your children. I know that you are loved and appreciated. So we just want to recognize you mothers today. I wanted to just spend a couple of minutes just talking as people are logging on. We're so grateful that you're able to join us today. Today, my wife, Happy Mother's Day, Dana, she is joining me in the service, and she will be on Facebook Live commenting and just welcoming you. So again, we're grateful that you are with us this Mother's Day. But I wanted to say thank you so much for your prayers. I told you I was going to be heading to Chicago, and I left on Monday. Me and my son drove to Omaha and had the privilege of staying with a cousin there. The cousin I stayed with, my cousin Mike, his mother raised me from when I was 11 years old to 18. My mother passed away when I was 11, so I got to be raised by his mother, and so it was nice to spend some time with him. They opened their home, gave us dinner and a place to sleep. Then the next morning, we drove 7 hours to Chicago. Got in there about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We cleaned DJ's apartment and loaded everything up in our vehicle. And then I did the 16-hour drive back from Chicago to Denver and got it back on Wednesday morning. So thank you for your prayers. God kept me awake and alert the most of the way. But it was good to get back and get that part closed and done. My son on Wednesday finished his master's, so he is done. And so it was a good week. God was really, really faithful to us, and so we are truly grateful. We are hoping that you are on with us right now. Again, we want to say Happy Mother's Day. Nissa is leading us in worship, and I want to say Happy Mother's Day to you. She has 3 beautiful children, my nieces and my nephew, and so I love them like they're my own. But I'm going to ask that you'll lead us in worship as we worship on this Mother's Day.
Absolutely. Let's all join in together. It's a blessing to be with you all this morning.
Higher than the mountains that I face, stronger than the power of the grave, constant through the trial and the change, one thing remains, one thing remains. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love. And on and on and on and on it goes, and it overwhelms and satisfies my soul. And I'll never ever have to be afraid. One thing remains.
Lord, that you are constant through the trial and the change. That you hear us before we even call.
Before I call, before I ever cry, you answer me from where the thunder hides. I can't outrun this heart I'm tethered to. With every step, I collide with you. Like a tidal wave crashing over me, rushing in to meet me here. Your love is fierce, like a hurricane that I can't escape, tearing through the atmosphere. Your love is fierce. You cannot fail. The only thing I've found is through it all, you never let me down. You don't hold back, relentless in pursuit. At every turn, I come face to face with you. Like a tidal wave crashing over me, rushing in to meet me here. Your love is fierce, like a hurricane that I can't escape, tearing through the atmosphere. Your love is fierce. You chase me down, seek me out. How could I be lost when you have called me found? You chase me down, you seek me out. How could I be lost when you have called me found? You chase me down, you seek me out. How could I be lost when you have called me found? You chase me down, you seek me out. How could I be lost when you have called me found? Like a tidal wave crashing over me, rushing in to meet me here. Your love is fierce, like a hurricane that I can't escape, tearing through the atmosphere. Your love is fierce. Your love is fierce. Your love is fierce. Your love is fierce.
Yes, Jesus, we just thank you that we can stay focused on you and your unchanging love.
Jesus, be my one desire, for you to live in me, and me to die is me. There's only one choice to make. Not I, but your grace. Not I, but your mercy. Not I, but your love. Not I, but Christ. Not I, but Christ. Jesus, be my one desire. You to live in me and me to die is to gain. There's only one choice to make. Not I, but your grace. Not I, but your mercy. Not I, but your love. Not I, but Christ. Not I, but Christ. Jesus, make me wholly devoted to you alone. Jesus, make me wholly devoted to you alone. Jesus, make me wholly devoted to you alone. Jesus, make me wholly devoted to you. Not I, but your grace. Not I, but your mercy. Not I, but your love. Not I, but Christ. Not I, but your grace. Not I, but your mercy. Not I, but your love. Not I, but Christ. Not I, but Christ. Not I, but Christ.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, ladies, so
Amen.
much. That was absolutely beautiful. I'm going to open with a word of prayer today. I know today is a day of celebrating mothers, and I want to do that and honor motherhood today. But I know for some, it's a difficult day. Some of you have lost mothers in recent years, and they're not here. I had a good friend I went to high school with that his mother just passed away a couple weeks ago, and I know today is a very difficult day for him. First day without his mother on Mother's Day, and some of you are experiencing that. Some of you have always wanted to be mothers and have never had the privilege of it. Some of you have lost children. So I know today can be a difficult day, but we want to honor motherhood because I believe it's such a special, there's nothing like it, the bond that a mother has with her children. And I want to start out by a poem today. And it says, "Dear Lord, it's such a hectic day with little time to stop and pray. For life's been anything but calm since you called me to be a mom. Running errands, matching socks, building dreams with building blocks, cooking, cleaning, and finding shoes and other stuff that children lose, fitting lids on bottled bugs, wiping tears and giving hugs, a stack of last week's mail to read. So where's the quiet time I need? Yet when I still a minute, O Lord, just at the sink or the ironing board, to ask the blessings of your grace, I see then in my small one's face that you have blessed me all the while, and I stop to kiss that precious smile. Those are the sentiments that we all associate with this day of Mother's Day. It is Mother's Day, so let me start by saying that if you have had or have a mother this morning that has just been a great mother to you, let those memories flood over you. Let them warm your heart and your soul. If you're able and she's still with you, honor her and let her know how much she means to you. Mother's Day is a special day, giving us an occasion to appreciate mothers for the difficult and often thankless and so very important job that they do. Mothers provide great comfort and stability for their children through their growing years and support in their adulthood. We always think that being a mother, that once they leave home, that's it, but many mothers are still doing an incredible job with their children in their adulthoods, advising them and being there, comforting them, giving them wisdom, so it never ends. In the 5th of the 10 Commandments, God said to honor your father and mother, and none would deny that good mothers are worthy to be honored. And so I've had the chance in my lifetime to have 3 mothers, and I wanted to mention each one of them. I had my biological mother that I had the privilege of being with for 11 years. My mother died. This year will be 40 years since she passed away in 1980. She had cancer and passed away, but my mother absolutely loved me. She was my biggest fan, never missed any of my ball games, and I'll never forget, she always made sure I got an ice cream after the ball game. She would take me, and I'd get an ice cream, and just absolutely loved my mother. She poured so much into me, and I was her world. But after my mother passed away, I went to go live with my aunt, her oldest sister, and I got to spend from age 11 to 18 with her, so for 7 years. And they were probably some of the most impactful years of my life. Probably the most difficult for her, my teenage years, having to deal with me as a teenager. But they gave me a stable place to live. They were a little bit more well off than what I was growing up with my mother. So they gave me stability. Everything I needed, they provided. And the biggest thing they did was introduced me to the Lord. I had an opportunity. They made sure I went to church, and I ended up finding the Lord, got saved, and called into the ministry under their household. And so from age 11 to 18, for those 7 years were so important in my life. But the biggest person, the person I've had the most time to spend with, is my mother-in-law, Sheila. This year will be 34 years that she has been a mother in my life, and she has taught me how to cook. She has taught me what it means to be part of a family and sacrifice, to really put your family first. And she has probably been the most influential person in my life from age 18 to this year. Next month will be 52. So for 34 years, I've had her in my life. So I've had 3 wonderful women that have all played a role in my life, and I want to honor them. This is a day of Mother's Day. It's rewarding. Let me just say this. This is a day that mothers are rewarded for washing all the sheets in the middle of the night, driving kids to school when they miss the bus. Nowadays, you drive them to school because they are running late, but enduring all those baseball and soccer games in the rain. I know my mom sure did. It's a day of appreciation for making your children finish something that they said they couldn't do, not believing them when they said they hated you, and sharing in the good times and the bad times. Mothers are teachers. They are disciplinarians. Mothers are nurses, psychiatrists. They're counselors. They're chauffeurs. They're coaches. Mothers are developers of personalities, molders of vocabularies, shapers of attitudes. Mothers are those soft voices that say, I love you. Mothers are the link to God. They are the child's first impression of God's love. Mothers are all those things and much, much more. And so today, I know can be a difficult day for many of you, missing your mom, missing motherhood, or even missing children. Today, I know, is one of those weird days where basically we are not together and you're not having the opportunity to be together with your children in church or maybe someplace else. So I just want to encourage you today to realize that you are loved. You're very much appreciated. So some of the greatest people in history will tell you how important their mothers were in their lives. George Washington, for example, declared that all he was due to his mother. Napoleon Bonaparte said that give us strong mothers and we will have strong sons. Abraham Lincoln said behind every great man is a great mother. Now, this is also true when we think of one of the greatest characters in the Old Testament, a man named Moses. Moses became that kind of man that he did was because of the women in his life and the mothers that he had. If you have your Bibles, will you open up to Exodus chapter 2? I've entitled this message, Three Moms, or Three Mothers, because I had three mothers, and I believe Moses had three women that played the role of mother in his life. But if you're in Exodus chapter 2, we're going to start in verse 1. And it says, and a man of the house of Levi went and took a wife a daughter of Levi. As the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, dabbed with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. When she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrew children. Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call a nurse for him from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages. So the woman took the child and nursed him. And then the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying, because I drew him out of the waters. The first mother we're going to see is Moses' birth mother. And what I love about her is the courage to obey God and the sacrifice that she made. Moses' mother did not have an easy life. Matter of fact, she only knew the curse of slavery. If you remember the story, basically the Egyptians worked the people of Israel merciless. They just constantly made them build bricks. They had to mix mortar. They put them to work in the fields. What had happened is Joseph, if you remember the story of Joseph had gone down into Egypt and became second in all of Egypt, and basically pronounced that there was going to be a famine. He stockpiled all this food, and the children of Israel slowly started coming down into Egypt. Remember, he met all of his brothers, and over a period of time, Israel started growing in Egypt. But as you get into chapter 1 of Exodus, Joseph has died, and so has the Pharaoh that knew Joseph and had blessed the children of Israel. So now there's a new Pharaoh, and as he looks around the landscape, he realizes that the Israelites are getting many in number, that if they wanted to, they could overthrow the Egyptians. And so he decides to make them slaves. And so they become slaves for several years. I think it's almost 400 years that they're put into slavery. And basically they're making bricks, they're making mortar, they're working the fields. And that was the life that Moses' mother was born into. Nothing but slavery. There are many dangers in being a mother with many different challenges. And true faith is the awareness of them, yet striving to do the right thing in God's eyes. To have a child during this time was a very difficult thing to do. And Moses' mother resisted Pharaoh's command and risked the threat of death. What is in your life right now that threatens you? Are there some type of fears that's keeping you from doing what you already have determined to be right? Because she had a choice to make and she made the right decision. See, Moses' mother's faith tells us that we can rely on God completely. That no matter what is going on in our lives, no matter how bad the circumstances may be, that God is still in complete control. And when we don't think things look good, that God can change the course of how things are going. What an amazing faith she had. She was married and she conceived a child. To understand the courage that I'm talking about and why I feel that she had such courage is you got to go to the very last verse of chapter 1. At the end of it, in verse 22, it says, "So Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, every son who is born," now this is of the Israelites, "every Israelite son who is born, you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive." And so Pharaoh has pretty much issued a death sentence to all the male children of Israel. So if Moses' mother was going to have a baby boy, he was probably going to be sentenced to death by being thrown in the river. And not only was this a sentence for Moses, but it was for all of Israel. If the boys were all gone, then the women would intermarry with the Egyptians. There would no longer be any male Israel, and so eventually Israel would not exist. They would all become Egyptians through marriage. And so they were trying to get rid of all of Israel. And so for Moses' mother to give birth to a son was an incredible sacrifice. It was incredible courage to do that. Moses was not an inconvenience to his mother, but was an opportunity to be faithful. I know today that so often we get caught up with talking with different individuals that you ask them when they're going to have kids or if they're going to have kids, and it's always, well, we're waiting, or maybe down the road, or when things are better and stuff. Sometimes we look at children as an inconvenience. Moses' mother did not see it that way. Even though this was a death sentence for her to have a son, she looked at it as being faithful to God, that if she got pregnant, she was going to have this child. And so I want to encourage you that when the Bible says that God opens and closes the womb, when he gives you that opportunity to have children, that they are such a blessing. See, there is a cost to being faithful. It is not that she could tell the future, but she knew to do the right thing at the right time under the circumstances. And once those circumstances changed, then her actions changed as well. See, regardless of the circumstances that any mother would encounter, the first duty is to love and care for a child. And that's what Moses' mother did. So much people today, they find children to be inconvenient, but not Moses' mother. See, under the culture of death, you can imagine what was going on in her mind. Can you imagine that all of a sudden she gives birth and she finds out it's a boy? The baby is born and it's a boy. I mean, wow. How devastating. There's a 50-50 chance, but to know that they are going to come and take your child and throw your child in the river, but she still goes through with it. In a time where she should have been celebrating with friends and having them come over and fuss all over her little baby, they can't do that right now. There's a dictator that has decided that everyone in her race that has a boy is going to be murdered. They're going to be thrown in the river. And so I'm assuming that for 9 months, she hid herself, isolated herself from being known that she was pregnant, because they would have wanted to know what type of birth that she gave. And then for the next 3 months, she has to hide the fact that she has a boy. And so we're all, self-isolating and not seeing people. She was pretty much going through the same thing. And I love what it says in verse 2. It says that, in verse 2 it says, "So the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him for 3 months." Women, let me ask you this. How many of you have ever given birth to a child that wasn't beautiful? I mean, I don't think we've ever looked at our babies and said, man, that's one ugly baby. We all think that our children are beautiful. But it's pointed out here, because he was beautiful, she wasn't going to let anything happen to him. She was going to hide him for 3 months, up to the point where she couldn't do it anymore. And so that is the circumstances that Moses' mother is dealing with. She's found faithful to go ahead and give birth to this son, but realizing that she just can't celebrate this and can't just come out in public and let everyone know she's had a son, because there's a death warrant issued for any of the males. And so finally, she has to show the ultimate mother's love, where she gives her little baby away to keep him safe. My mother dealt with cancer for several years, and before she passed away, she made sure I was taken care of. She contacted her older sister. Her older sister had already raised 2 children, and they were out of the house, and she asked if it would be okay for her to take me in, to make sure that I was provided for and taken care of. She made the ultimate sacrifice. She lost her life, but she made sure before that happened that I was taken care of. And we see here Moses' mother making sure he is taken care of. In the Second World War, Jewish mothers packed their children upon what they call the Kindertransport. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but knowing that they would never see their children again, they did this to keep them safe. The Kindertransport was an organized rescue effort that took place about 9 months before the start of World War II. And it happened in the United Kingdom, and then the United Kingdom rescued almost 10,000 predominantly Jewish children from Nazi Germany. The children were placed in British foster homes, hostels, farms, and even in schools. Often, they were the only member of their families to survive the Holocaust. And so can you imagine putting your child on a train knowing that you may never see them again, but because of your great love for them, you do that and make that sacrifice so that they can survive? That's what Moses' mother did here. She put her child in that river knowing that he was going to float down that river, hoping and praying that God would intervene, and God does. And so what can we learn from Moses' mother? I think the number one thing is many of you mothers make incredible sacrifices for your children. And you know what the sad thing is? Most of the time, your children don't even realize it. It's not till they become adults and they become mothers and they become parents that they realize the sacrifices they're making. Then they start to appreciate what mom did for them. But when they're children, they don't see it. When I was a child, I didn't realize the sacrifices my mom was making, dealing with cancer and all that. I mean, she never missed a game, always went, probably did not feel well, making sure that I was set up and taken care of, all the things she did. Today, I'm able to look back and realize what an incredible mother she was. And we see here the sacrifice that Moses' mothers made may not be the same type of sacrifice you're having to make, giving away your child, but you do make sacrifices. You may not be making the same sacrifices as Jewish mothers, putting their children on a train and sending them away, knowing that they're probably never going to see them again. But I want you to rest today knowing that you're doing all you can for your children, that you love them, that you are trying to provide the best you possibly can. And that's all you can do. I know right now many of you are making sacrifices today. You're not able to be with your children, and it hurts. You're not able to go and be recognized and celebrated like you have in the past. And those are sacrifices that are being made, and hopefully they're making a difference. They're keeping you safe and keeping you alive for next Mother's Day. And next Mother's Day will be a wonderful time to celebrate. But I just want you to know right now, I just want to say thank you to all you mothers for the wonderful and tremendous sacrifices that you've made for your families. The second mother that we see in this story is, I believe, Moses' sister. We don't know her name when you read this, but later on we find it is Miriam. And we don't know how old she is. We know that she's young enough to not obviously be the baby's mother. So they don't think she's the baby's mother. So I'm assuming she's probably somewhere between 6 to maybe 12 years old. We would say somewhere probably around 10 years old, I would think. Most theologians think that she was when this story is being told. But can you imagine what it must have been like for a 10-year-old or so to have to step up and take care of a sibling to save your sibling's life? See, Moses' mother couldn't help, so the sister has to step up and act like the mother to save the young baby's life, to save her brother. Excuse me, Guy, I coughed, and hopefully you're okay. He told me last week he saw me cough, and it scared him. It's not going through the camera into your computer today. But anyways, here she was standing, and I love what it says right here. In verse 4 it says, and his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. She just didn't, say, well, our brother's gone. She went and stood and watched what was going on to make sure that he was going to be taken care of, to find out what was going to happen. And then later on, she comes, and it says in verse 7, then the sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call a nurse for him from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you? She got involved to make sure her brother was taken care of and was okay. How many of you have had siblings take care of you, or other family members have to take care of you because of situations your family was in? I know when my mother passed away, I went to live with an aunt, her sister. Her sister stepped in and took care of me. There are many children today that are taking care of siblings. I know, talking to a lot of people, everyone's been on lockdown right now. And basically, children have been home doing their online schooling. But we just opened up this week, and a lot of parents are having to go back to work, but their kids are still at home. And there's going to be older siblings that are going to step in as the role of mom to make sure their kids are doing their work, that they are taken care of until mom and dad can get home. And so they are going to fill that role for mom and dad because of the situation they're in. See, all around this country, there are thousands of children right now acting as caregivers, either taking care of disabled parents, siblings, or parents that are sick. You know, it's weird how we go full cycle. Our parents take care of us, and then as we start getting older, we realize we have to start taking care of our parents. Take on the role of more of their mothers and taking care of them because they can't take care of themselves anymore. And so I want to encourage you, for all of you that have stepped up to play that role for your siblings or for someone else because the biological mother couldn't, thank you for the role you played. I think that, like Moses' sister, we're all going to have to step up and do things that we don't feel equipped with. That where we all are, they say it takes a village. And sometimes what I see today is we have grandparents helping raise children. They're playing the role of mom to these children because both parents are working, or someone else is there to help raise the child. And that's what we see with Moses' sister, is that she took it upon herself to make sure he was taken care of, that he was provided for. She went and got his own mother to nurse him. She stepped in and played a vital role in his life. I know many of you today are going out and shopping for your parents because you don't want to see them going into a grocery store. So you go get their groceries and you're providing for them. Some of you are doing it in the home where you're coming in and trying to make sure that they're okay. Let me just say this, that there is a tremendous lesson for the family in general to learn here. Here is a young girl that God used to continue the lineage of Christ. Don't think of yourself too young that you can't be used by God. God can do mighty things through a faithful, surrendered young saint. You're never too young to be able to help out with the family. And I just love the fact that Moses' sister, whatever age she was, made sure her little brother was taken care of. And he was blessed because of that. Understand that God is able to move any heart for his purpose and plan. Can you imagine? Here's Moses being born, and yet he is supposed to be killed, thrown in the river, but yet God uses and manipulates and works things so that he is saved. So no matter how desperate your situation is, no matter how bad your family may seem, God can turn it around and do something mighty through it. The third thing I want to get into is the third mother I see, and that is Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter is the third mother. Perhaps she was around 17, 18-year-olds, most theologians think. Not old enough to have her own baby, but old enough to look at a baby and know that he needed to be protected. I love when it says that in verse 6, that she opened it, saw the child, and behold, the baby cried. Here she is by the river, and she looks down, and she opens up this ark, and she looks in there and sees this baby weeping. And the next line says that she had compassion, that she had compassion on him. Her heart went out to him. She was willing to ignore her father's orders because of a mother's heart. Isn't that just like God? That God would use a woman of the people who hated Israel and was trying to destroy Israel to save Israel? God can use and do all types of incredible things. No matter what your past is, no matter how you were raised, no matter how limited you might have been with your education, your economical background, whatever it might have been, God can do incredible things to change your life around. And so understand that God is able to move any heart for his purpose and his plan. Now, this is not some biological relative of Moses's. Some of you have been raised by aunts and grandparents or sisters while your parents had to work. But and they showed you amazing love, but they were your relatives. You expected that. Pharaoh's daughter is not a relative of Moses. She steps in to adopt him. Can you imagine that? Here she is. Her father has decreed that he is supposed to die. She sees him, has compassion on him, and says, you know what? I'm going to adopt him. I'm going to make him part of our family. An amazing heart that she had there. I don't know how many people, but I know there's been some in this congregation right here who have served as foster parents or have been active in the adoptive process of adopting parents. It's an amazing thing to do, to take on somebody else's child and raise them and provide for them. And I just thank all you mothers that have done that have stepped in to take on someone else's child, and all you saw is you had compassion for that child and wanted the best for them. I was talking with a guy that's fixing our church van. Our van broke down, and Friday I was at his office, and we were talking, and he's adopted 3 sons. One from Russia, one that has some limitations, handicaps and stuff, and another son. And you could just see how proud he was. These weren't his flesh and blood, but these were his 3 sons that he adopted, and it didn't matter if it was flesh or blood. He was their father, and he was just so proud of them. And I told him, I said, what an amazing thing he had done to take 3 people, 3 individual guys, and change their lives by showing them love and giving them something that they wouldn't have had. And so Pharaoh's daughter goes a little bit further than that. When we adopt somebody, it's because we got a good heart and we want to do the good things for them. Imagine Pharaoh's daughter is adopting a child that is going against her father. And we know that the Bible says, and I want to make sure you get this right here, it says, sins of the fathers will be remitted unto the children to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate God. And it's so hard sometimes for us when we have family that are doing the wrong thing to break away from that or to confront them and say what you're doing is wrong. Can you imagine if you were a child of somebody that was part of the SS from the Nazi Party and you had to live with that? The evil that was there, but she breaks the curse of this evil. She says, you know what my dad is doing is wrong, and I'm going to step in and adopt this young child. And she breaks that curse. There must have been, I love what she said at the end of verse 6. This must be one of the Hebrew children. She knew what she was doing was going to go against what her father wanted. But her heart was so open with the fact that this child needed to be saved that she was willing to do that. She showed that even though her dad had ordered the murder of every one of these children, that she was going to save this child and adopt it. The Bible and its truest family relationships are not formed by genetics, but by love. On the cross, Jesus started a whole new family by saying to his mother, behold your son, as she placed her care into John's care. And then to John, behold your mother. Can you imagine, here's Jesus, and one of the last things he does while he's on the cross, before he's being the sacrifice of all mankind, is to make sure his mother is taken care of. To make sure that she is going to be looked after, that one of his disciples was going to take her in and she was going to become his mother and he was going to become her son. Theologians see this as the start of the church, a new family formed not by blood ties, but by the blood of Jesus, not by genetics, but by love. And so we see here that Moses had these 3 incredible women in his life. One was his biological mother that loved him, that was willing to have him, that cared so much for him. She made the ultimate sacrifice to let him go so that he could have the best life possible. And there's some of you that have put children up for adoption. You knew that at your particular situation in life that you were not the best option for that child, that you could not provide for that child, that you could not give that child everything that a child needed. And you made the ultimate sacrifice. You were willing to allow someone else to raise that child, to be a mother to that child, to provide for that child. And that's a huge sacrifice. But because of your love for that child, you did that. And I just want to say thank you for that, because Moses' mother let him go so that he had a chance. And then to his sister, stepping in and trying to make sure he's provided for. I want to thank all of you that are relatives right now that fill that role in children's lives, whether you're a grandparent, an aunt, a sibling, whoever you may be, that when you're stepping in and you are giving wisdom, you're giving love, that you're there for that child when a mom can't be. And lastly, for the fact that Pharaoh's daughter was willing to adopt Moses, for all of you that have stepped in when parents aren't there, when parents have not been able to fulfill the role of being available, that you were willing to adopt and say, you know what, we're going to take responsibility for this child. We're going to love this child. We're going to provide for this child. Let me tell you, thank you so much, because I've experienced all three. And all three played such huge roles in my life to get to me where I am today. And so thank all of you mothers. Whether you were biological, adoptive, or just a relative that played that role, thank you today for the sacrifices and your willingness to love on children the way you have. I want to end today with another poem. I'm going to ask our worship team to come up. The poem is entitled A Mother's Love, and it says, a mother's love is something that no one can explain. It is made of deep devotion and of sacrifice and pain. It is endless and unselfish and enduring come what may, for nothing can destroy it or take that love away. It is patient and forgiving when all others are forsaking. And it never fails or falters, even though the heart is breaking. It believes beyond believing when the world around condemns. And it grows with all the beauty of the rarest and brightest gems. It is far beyond defining. It defiles all explanation. And it still remains a secret that the mysteries of creation, a many splendor miracle man cannot understand, and another wondrous evidence of God's tender guiding hand. Mothers, you're incredible. I want to just say right here with my wife sitting here that my children are all that they are because of you. All the time that you spend in relationship with them, talking with them, pouring into them, being there for them, sacrificing, giving. I mean, my son, just give me an idea. My wife sent him a $20 bill while he was in Chicago months ago. We're driving back and he's going through some of his stuff and he opens up the card and there's a $20 bill in there where Dana had said, you know, go have something fun and do something fun. And he hadn't even opened the card and got the money or anything. But the sacrifices that you made to give to our children, writing, making sure he felt special while he was away, giving of your own resources. Our children are what they are because of you. And I know for all you mothers out there, you've done the same thing. You've loved your children when no one else, you know, would give them the time. No matter how bad they were, no matter what they did wrong, you still unconditionally love them. And I thank God for you mothers. God bless you, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me and know his love for me. Oh, his love for
that song saying, I'm a child of God, I mentioned at the beginning that mothers are the first, give our children the first glimpse of God's love, because I believe God loves us the way mothers do. No matter how bad you are, I mean, some of you guys out there, you could go out and commit a crime, police show up and your mom would say, oh, he's a good boy, he just misunderstood. You understand, he's got a good heart. They'll defend you all the way. God does the same thing. When you're a child of God, he forgives you, he loves you unconditionally. And what I love about the story of Moses is that his mother made the ultimate sacrifice, and because she did, Moses got to live in the palace. He got the best education that you could have possibly got. His mother made the sacrifice, and her son was the benefited from it. He enjoyed so much of life's pleasures because of what she did. He became the prince of Egypt. And so many times, we hear it all the time that we want our children to have a better life than us. And because of the sacrifices, many of you parents, not just mothers, but fathers going to work every day and doing what they do, but the sacrifice you've made has allowed your children to have a better life than you have, and have lives that we never dreamed of were possible. And so today, I hope you feel honored that you have an opportunity to speak with your children. Maybe they can come by and wave to you in the yard or bring a meal to you and let you have it. But I hope you feel special. We love you. God bless you. As we end our service today, like always, there will be a thing will pop up that will show you our website. If you would like to give, you can go on there and hit the give button on our website and be able to make a donation. But we appreciate you so much. Thanks for joining us today. Again, happy Mother's Day. Mom, love you. I'm going to go see you here in a little bit. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day.